welcome everyone to this webinar for the MSTR members and other people watching this perhaps on YouTube at a future date. And it's my great pleasure to welcome Paula Esson. She's over in Northern Ireland, and please introduce yourself, Paula, and also Sean, perhaps, who's sitting alongside. Just introduce a little bit about your background and, what made you get so interested in this topic.
Yes, I can do that easily. I've been a sports scientist since 1991. I've been a national basketball coach for quite a while, and then run centres, done a lot of therapy, work, pain management, and specialising for a period of time there in the Bowen technique, but then went off to something called PDTR and then MSTR, as well. And I'm thirsty. I'm always thirsty to find the answers for players and for the community and my community clinics. So I've always got my nose to the ground, really, and traveling the planet to find those solutions, turning over rocks, stones, scavenger hunting, you name it. I keep my mind open, and some things really stick and they resonate and they work in clinic, and other things I'll try and they're not so effective, and I'll leave them and move on to the next initiative. But when we came across ecology, which is EQology, basically they're a Norwegian company, and they work with the Iceland football team, who I work with. So I had the privilege to meet the scientists of the company and have a proper conversation. This wasn't a fly-by-night thing. And I built up a working relationship with them over a period of like 18 months or close to this, and decided to actually sort of get a bit closer involved once I saw the science of what they have and how they do it, and how different and how unique and innovative it is compared to others on the market. And they specialize in a very, very high quality omega-3 Arctic oil, looking at the very well documented science on why the omega-3/6 ratio is imperative if you want to get your foundation health right. And that tethers into MSTR and scar work and collagen buildup and inflammation and so on. So that's basically my background, over 30 years. So I come with a certain level of knowledge and application. And I've brought my fantastic also sports science colleague with me, Sean Burgess, who we're about to introduce himself.
Yeah. So welcome along, Sean. Nice to meet you. Yeah. Please tell us a little about yourself too.
Yeah, so I'm Sean, and as Paula said, I come from a sports science background initially, and then moved through into sports coaching. I've become a sports coach educator for the past sort of 27 years at university at undergrad and master's level. And through that time, I've always had an interest in conditioning and body work and so on, and actually worked with Paula in the Bowen technique, and I've done sort of routes through sports massage therapy and so on. And from a personal interest, I then followed a route into somatic movement and how we move as a system, and how the systems of the body are all interconnected, really. And often how sometimes that isn't explored within sport and environments. So everything being quite fixed in terms of forwards, backwards, sides, rotational. And that's where I found this being really useful tie-in with the fascial work and with the scar tissue work, in that we're actually moving the tissues through a full three-dimensional approach, which is obviously what it is, rather than just thinking about it being sort of these fixed patterns. So for me, that is the driver behind. If we can get people moving a lot more and a lot more free in that movement, then that's obviously going to have an impact on their health. Yeah,
it's absolutely vital, isn't it? And we'd love to have you along at a future date to just talk to our members about that alone. Sounds an absolutely fascinating and very relevant topic to what we do as therapists, not just in terms of therapy work, but then what do clients do after that. So we'd love to tap into your expertise at a future date, Sean. For now, Paula is just bursting, I know, to share this information with us all. And I am too, because I've not heard any of this before. So it's all new to me as well. So go for it, Paula. The room is yours.
So we're presenting, Sean and I kind of work in this sort of tweedledee kind of a way, don't we? It's like we bounce off each other like true coaches. So it will just let this evolve naturally.
Sure. Absolutely.
As it goes.
It's the best way.
Yeah, because we're both very enthusiastic about this. So I'll get this back up and we'll share that. So that screen is nice and clear, I think. Yeah, we're good. Okay. So there's my qualifications, on there, and this is an EQ, health event. This is a slideshow I put together myself, though, based on knowledge and collection of knowledge that I've done over the last, couple of years. But keeping it straightforward, because it gets incredibly complex once you get into the science of what's actually going on at the cell level. So it's not about me sort of, blowing people's brains. It's about making that connectivity between what we do with our hands and what best advice we can give to our clients on a daily basis. So we talk about omega-3 all the time. Everyone goes, oh, yes, of course, omega-3 is super, super important. It's a name that is synonymous with health. And omega-3 is the most researched situation and supplement in the world. There's like 36,000 papers alone on omega-3 and omega-3/6 ratio, and all of its sort of separate components in different aspects of health, whether that's inflammation, whether it's swelling, whether it's to do with, we're talking about menopause and female hormone health, whether it's scars, fitness, performance, you name it. It keeps coming up over and over and over again, which actually creates a lot of safety, I feel, in what we're explaining and demonstrating when saying, we're not joking here, this is the way to go. But what are we talking about when we talk about omega-3? Well, immediately we think fish, yes, and fatty fish in particular. So your mackerels, your salmon, anchovies, sardines as well. A lot of the less quality omega-3 oils they come from like the Cape of South Africa, and it's the sardines that they're harvesting, which we've got a lot of pollution involved there. So when we're sourcing a good omega-3 supplement, there's a lot of elements there that are absolutely key. And that was important for me as well to get those boxes ticked, because my reputation is at the bottom line of anything that I get involved in. And I'm not involved with many products as such. This is the one I'm mostly involved in, just because, and to endorse it a little bit alongside the work that we do. But there's lots of other sources of omega-3. So it could be in nuts, it could be your avocados, it's your chia seeds, almonds. There's many aspects of where you can access your omega-3, but the well-known one and the easiest one is fatty fish. But fatty fish has got incredibly expensive over the last few years, 4 or 5 years. So it actually worked out, might be on the slideshow actually, it costs around, if you did it on non-farmed fish and did it on fish alone on solid product, it costs you about £50 a week just to access the amount to get your ratio to where it needs to be. So that's sort of like the base. And they're saying we all need omega. And they're asking this, are you eating wild fatty fish 4 or 6 times a week of non-farmed fish? I'm not talking Tesco, Asda, even your local fishmonger here. We're talking, has it come straight from the sea? Did you see it come from the sea? Has it been sitting around for less than 24 hours? And has it gone literally from sea to plate? And the answer for most of us, especially people who live inland, we certainly don't have that access point. And so what we're getting in is low quality. And we've done this because we blood test with this, as you'll find out. I have done many little bits of research in the background, as Alice would expect me to do, because that's my background as the research side. And I've tried it out, blood tested people who've been on poor fish, and their ratios don't change. They stay in the red. So that just shows you they're not only eating poor fish, they're taking on that fish's antibiotics because they're farmed. They're taking on a whole element of what I would call a more sort of processed, bioengineered type situation. Sure. What are we actually talking about when we're talking about what's in the fish itself? Well, there's 3 aspects here in terms of fatty acids that we cannot produce ourselves. We have to get it from an external source. DHA is one of them, and I'm not going to go off into the whole molecular names and stuff because it's many-barreled, and no doubt I'll pronounce it and get it wrong. So I practice in the mirror many times and don't get it right. So DHA, ALA, and EPA are the 3 key factors when dealing with inflammation. And the DHA, high-grade DHA, so if you're getting over 900 milligrams of DHA into your system, then you're starting to have a positive impact on your cognitive development and function, visual development and function, inflammation, which is a particular area of interest of ours, and cardiovascular function. The ALA is a source of energy, so it stops those slumps that people get, through the day, that usual 3 to 5 in the afternoon bracket, where people are start to struggle with their work or with social activities or family commitments. So ALA will actually keep you at a higher level in terms of your energy. And the EPA controls inflammation, again, cardiovascular function. So, but you need those 3 elements in the right balance, and they need to be of high quality, and then what we call low TOTOX. And a lot of the products that are out there have a TOTOX level of 8 or more, and people don't look for that. Whereas Ecology's one is a TOTOX level of 4 or less. And that TOTOX level tells you the total toxicity of the fish oil in the product. Because if it's been sitting around going rancid or oxidizing, then we immediately start to affect the quality of the product that you're taking on board. And if you look at a lot of the things that are on the shelves in Asda, and people say, oh, I could just get it from Tesco, I can get it from Holland and Barrett, I can get it from my local natural health shop, then these are the things you need to be looking for on the back. Does it have a batch number that you can trace the boat or where it comes from? So you can wave at the fisherman, love that, and exactly where the boat is at any point in time, so the fish is coming from a sensible place. And is it sort of like the amount of time from the boat to processing needs to be incredibly short, so it's processed immediately. That is key, and most are not. So it's that TOTOX will tell you you've got a low TOTOX level, which varies batch to batch with the oil that we use, because it's a different batch of fish. So it's accurate through the labs. So these are all the elements that we want to hit things at foundation, basically. And hitting things at foundation, I put this screen up, it looks complicated, but it's not. If you start scanning all of these illnesses or diagnoses, etc. It's diagnosis, is that like a dinosaur? Yeah. Diagnosis is that a word? Yeah, found out the 50-55.
Yeah.
But all of these things, I'm a bit of a wuss, guys. I'm high level sort of sport and science, so is Sean. But when it comes to preventing illnesses, I'm there because I really don't want to have it. And I know if you get the inflammatory markers all wrong, which is what the blood test looks for, then you're on a highway to one of these things, depending on how your epigenetics are and your own genetic makeup, etc. You could be leaning towards having rheumatoid arthritis or kidney failure, cardiovascular issues, Crohn's, eczema, arthritis, diabetes, even carpal tunnel. All the big fellas that are up there that you really don't want to be on the receiving end or the other side of to recover from. So I'm all about prevention. So getting the inflammatory marker at its base level gives us all a fighting chance, basically, to prevent that in the first place.
Yeah,
so sorry.
Sorry, I want to say it's really important that people understand how important it is to get the nutrition right. And if those basic things are not in your day-to-day diet, how much that supplementation can assist that. As we've just been talking, and my microphone's been on mute, in the area that we live here in Germany, there is a heart hospital just about 200 meters away. And whilst I was on mute, there was another ambulance went down, which is probably taking a heart attack patient. And I saw that there, heart attack, chronic inflammation. So that always reminds me, when we hear the ambulance go by, it's probably another heart attack victim. And if only people would look at these kind of things, it could prevent so much.
Exactly that, and it's there in our communities and our environment. And my partner happens to be a senior cardiac nurse, so it walks through my door every evening as well, in terms of the stories, or yet another one, a 35-year-old, a 42-year-old, a 60-year-old. But somehow we sort of put it under the carpet of our consciousness, don't we, that it's somebody else, that will never happen to me, until it happens to you.
Yeah.
And it's this piece that I want to share the science on and get people to take action on.
And it is that link, isn't it? And like you were saying there, Alistair, the fact that some people actually do think they're doing the right thing when they take certain supplements and so on. And that's why the point that Paula raised in terms of, do you really know that you're taking a high grade supplement? Because people think they're doing the right thing because they've been advised, take fish oil, or, take this or that. And they do it, but they're not realizing that actually it's been sat around, it's got this high toxicity in it. It's not of the required grade, if you like. So it's not really having the impact that they think it's going to have, and they're still wondering why they've been told it's really good for them. but it's not impacting a lot of these inflammatory conditions.
Yeah, and also a big thing where with supplements, and especially these oils, is the potential for oxidization too. And people don't always understand the longer it's been sat in the bottle and there's oxygen in there, that it can actually degrade it. Now, is there any kind of recommended daily allowances been established for omega-3?
Yeah, well, we'll come on to,
Okay.
so that side, yeah,
Right.
it crops up, through the thing, but the way that we do it with ourselves is that you double dose at the start to get the baseline right. So you would take in the region between 15 milliliters to 20 milliliters of the oil a day, which actually sounds like quite a lot. But because the oil doesn't taste like fish oil, it's not that aggressive on the palate. It doesn't regurge back on you as a lot of fish oils do or capsules do. That it's a lot more palatable, and you can take the 20 mils. And then when we get the results of the blood test back, then we know exactly what you need to be taking.
Now, I'm glad you mentioned that, because many, many years ago, when I had a very busy clinic, and I did used to sell supplements, I did used to sell the omega-3 oils. And one of the big things from this particular manufacturer, who is no longer in existence, but one thing was, and you just kind of hit on that you can tell the difference between a good quality fish oil and a poor quality fish oil by the taste. If it tastes of fish, it's already gone off. It's already rancid. And if it regurgitates on you and you taste the fish, it's a poor quality oil. So that's how, people watching this will be able to know whether they're getting, whatever they're buying at the supermarket, is it a good quality? And chances are it's not.
Yeah. And of course, most people, because of the taste, they'll take the capsule form. And if you take the capsule form, again, that's had a heating process within that. Yeah. And at the conference last year, when the scientists were talking about just that they did what they call the Rancy test. And they actually cut the capsules in half and then tested the amount of oxidization within them, and then tested the articles against it to see exactly sort of like where they were at. And so it was like 84% of oils out there were coming in well under par. And there's, like you say, there's a lot of key factors that we need to look for so this bit's talking about inflammation here, the different types, but when it comes to the oil itself, I'm going to just go through this bit a little bit. You know about sort of rheumatoid arthritis, osteoarthritis, all the different types of inflammation, hormonal changes causing that. Rheumatoid arthritis tends to sort of come out at exactly all major joint positions. And it's a swollen, inflamed situation and so people get swelling, inflammation, pain. It's an autoimmune disease, and it tends to be symmetrical. And the difference between the osteoarthritis, it tends to be the cartilage loss and the bones rubbing together, and the degenerative disease, and asymmetrical. So you get a different type of sets of symptoms, but there's a huge proportion of the population are getting rheumatoid arthritis because their system is inflammatory, because their omega-3/6 ratio is incorrect. Yeah. So a healthy cell, to put it basically, it should be nutrients in, waste products out, and the cell membrane itself should be soft and permeable. But what happens is the omega-3/6 ratio in its protein element on the cell membrane is wrong, i.e. too many protein elements are actually the omega-6, then we get a hardened membrane. And that hardened membrane of the cell means only a portion of the necessary nutrients permeate it, and only some of the waste products come out. And actually, people will call this, that situation's toxic, and it's in its absolute simplicity, that's what they're explaining. And at the cell level, we were talking about oxidative stress there, that the fatty acids are depicted here in the yellow and the red, and the antioxidants in the blue. So the yellow is the omega-3, the red is the omega-6, and the blue is the antioxidants. So this was like a normal cell membrane. If the fatty acids, if there's excess omega-6, is insufficient omega-3, then it leads that dietary imbalance in the membrane itself, and we get a lot of these free radicals, kicking about, and then a whole myriad of symptoms that first you can ignore, but essentially then you can't. So by blood testing, we can pick up what's actually happening in the red blood cells, the erythrocytes, and then you leave it for 3-4 months, up to 4 months, to allow those cells to completely 100% regenerate, so you can then measure exactly what is going on in your body across all cells again. So you're measuring the blood cells, but essentially you're measuring every cell in the body. It's just your cursor. Yeah.
Are they measuring anti inflammatory markers when they do the blood test?
They're measuring the amount of omega-3 and the amount of omega-6 on a very simplest, and for lots of the other fatty acids as well. So they produce a report that is, first of all, simplistic, so it's easy to absorb. And then they have a wider report that lists every single fatty acids, or tell you all your HDLs, your LDLs, your analytes. It just goes through the whole list. So you can see where you're out of ratio, what might be causing it. So you can get that back into balance. But the first one to do is to ensure that we've got that omega-3/6 ratio at least at a 4 to 1 to 1. So you've got you can go as far as a 4 with omega-6. That'll show itself more in the presentation, but you really want to sort of get that ratio correct, and then you can play with it. And what I love about this is that it's not about stopping eating pizza or having a good night out or being very restrictive in your diet and taking the supplement. It's it's about saying, today I'm going to have a blowout. I know I'm having a blowout, and that's absolutely fine. I've got a party on. I'm going to act normal at the restaurant, have what I want, but I'll double dose of my oils. So once I've got my ratio established, I can maintain my ratio like playing scales. So you double dose in the morning, and then you can have it in the night, and then your ratio will stay the same. So it's quite clever once we've got it in balance over a period of 4 months. Yeah. So the presence of fat is saying in more than 5% of liver cells, and this is like the non-fatty acid, non-fatty liver disease. There's all these sort of areas that contribute that we have got. It's going up and up and up. It's up to almost 39%. And the deficient omega-3 acid in the diet is creating these things. So insulin resistance of diabetes, oxidative stress, obesity, cardiovascular disease. All of these biggies are directly related to the omega-3/6 ratio and how your liver is processing the fats involved. So again, there you can see, get this breakdown is red, increased risk of long-term events. So once we get that balance wrong, increase of myocardial function once we get that balance wrong. High omega-3 intake, we reduce all those things and reduce the potential. So we kick the can down the park, basically, hopefully to about the age of 120, which would be just about nice. Yeah. But fascia is the home of inflammation. Would you like to have a little?
Yeah. So, we will, if you think about the sort of the videos that are produced as part of the whole healing process and the interconnectedness of the layers that we're talking about that are impacted either through injury or actually through the practices that we do in terms of our general inflammation. And I know that on the previous slide where it was talking about things like free radical production, oftentimes when people are exercising, this comes back to that idea of, I think I'm doing a good thing here because I'm exercising loads and I'm working at such a high intensity, but actually what they're not realizing is that production of free radicals actually is then having a negative effect if it's not mediated. So that's producing that inflammatory condition within the cells that they think they're actually impacting in a healthy way, and because we've got this web of interconnection through everything, that systemic inflammation then is something which starts to underpin and show up in a lot of the different structures within the body.
Yeah. And it's interesting because when we take blood tests for different varieties and populations, the most interesting I've found over the years is the fitness instructors have the worst omega-6/3 ratios. I had one the other day, came in at 65 to 1 to 1, and they complained about having pain and joint pain and various things, but they look good. But under the bonnet, we had a disaster going on. And the reason for that is because the people have the mentality, sometimes saying that, well, I'm training, so I need to up the protein. So I up the protein. Where do I get protein easily? Well, I get it from chickens. So then I start eating a pile of chickens, but chicken is loaded with omega-6. So much so that there's a chicken factory down the road from here. Had a conversation with a scientist there about 3 months ago. And he was laughing, saying, we actually did something for Waitrose where we were injecting increased levels of omega-3 into our chickens to reduce the omega-6 in the chicken before it was consumed by the human, otherwise known as bioengineering. Yeah. And but the fitness instructor is like, eat your chicken and broccoli, and you'll be all right. You'll be fit as, you'll build up your muscle mass, you'll do that. But yes, we need to source protein from a different area. It's a different conversation. However, people think, oh, chicken, absolutely fine, loaded with omega-6 and will increase your inflammatory response. That's the key message there. Okay. So we're moving the goalposts, and use span is the new phrase. Kicking the can down the park is what everybody is trying to do. We know we've got longevity going on, but we need to get older, healthier, so that, as we know, the health service is not going to handle the situation, moving forward as people move into their 80s and 90s, certainly. But at this age, most people are looking at supplements in their 40s, 50s, 60s. Then, this is the way to go to get that use span, so we can move the lines down a little bit. Oh, I need to go down here for that. There we go. So this is like one of the science charts that we would use, and it's an old one. It was done in 1997, and this line is shifting. So it's what's known as a disability threshold. Early life, no problem. You should be flexible, mobile, eat what you want, stay slim. As we know, that's not quite the truth. In adult life, you should be able to maintain that up to the age of 65, they're saying. But now that's moved higher as well, up to 70. But we should be able to maintain independence and prevent disability. But we start to get this course change in functional capacity. And it's between those two lines that we're looking to gain. So we end up in the green line and not in the orange line. It's a bit like the road sign, isn't it? That you look at the road sign, and the elderly person is depicted by being bent over with a walking stick. Mm-hmm. And I want an elderly person's picture to be someone waving an umbrella and skipping. Look out for those, and that's a road sign for the elderly.
Yeah. And that was a conversation we were having yesterday as well, with the whole age almost as an indicator. Sometimes there's almost an acceptance by people that, oh, I'm this age, so that means I need to slow down, I need to stop doing, and that narrative. What we're saying is, no, it should be, I need to maintain, I need to still be building.
Yeah,
there seems to be an almost people having it's an inevitability that at a certain age you ought to feel a certain way. And that previous slide you had on, so important, that last third of our life, which is where I am now.
I'll come back to
that. The quality of that last third of your life, when you've done a lot of your learning and had the best years of your life, and you get into the last part, that it would be very easy to kind of retire, sitting on a beach in Florida, sipping pina coladas. And you just end up being a fat alcoholic. So the thing is, that last third of life, really important that we can get away from the prescription medications and the way that we're supposed to feel at your age. So this is a very important slide for anyone watching this in that last third of their life anyhow.
Yeah, and it's changing the narrative, that it's like you say, it's that inevitability, Alistair, that once we're over this age of 65, or that's it, the next 20 years it's all going to be about medicine, it's all going to be about reduced mobility. But if we're putting a lot of effort in from the age of 50 up into that bracket between sort of 50 and 70, i.e. correct supplementation, keeping the inflammatory markers down, moving in a healthy way, socialization, all those factors, then we can actually stop this, and the process won't start until at least 85, and that's what we're aiming at. And that's clearly where you are, Alistair, because you look great.
Thank you. Having just come back from holiday, interesting to see, observing people round the swimming pool, and how many men, I noticed more particularly than even women, that probably in their 30s are grossly obese. And they're going to hit problems in their health at halfway into their life, or, they're not going to even make it that far. Which is very sad. So we've got to be proactive. We've got to be doing stuff to reduce that potential for dependency on drug medication and medical procedures as we advance in our age.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree more. So that's exactly what they're looking at, this health span now, looking at the aging and the dysfunction, the stress sensitive disease, mortality. And they see that number's quite interesting. They've got there on the age range in the right-hand column, they're now talking about humans aged 65 to 120. So actually only halfway through. Does that make you happy?
I've actually probably never felt better for a long time.
I can see that.
Actually, in terms, and my diet has altered since I moved to Germany. My diet has altered, and I take care of myself. I'm more active, in taking care of myself, watching what I eat, watching my weight, keeping active as much as possible, and mentally active too.
Yeah, yeah. So the EU, that's not like, it sounds like EMU. EU health claims on the EQ pure Arctic oil. This is it's good for your heart. So 250 milligrams of EPA DHA contribute to normal heart function, and the EQ one's much higher than that. It hits at the 1,300 just to cover all bases. Good for your brain, good for your vision, good for your immune system, good for your blood pressure. And they've actually just proven recently that your omega-3/6 ratio is more important than your blood pressure and more important than your cholesterol. And I think that is quite a statement. Yeah. As we move forward with the science, we all know, oh yes, get your blood pressure right, get your triglycerides right. And if that's okay, you'll be good. But it's not the case. It's like, so that if you start to sort of change this ratio, then none of the other things actually commence. And then of course that gets into the whole discussion about statins and how far we could go with that.
And that's a big subject, isn't it?
That's a big subject, not for today, but
no.
We can come back on that one.
Yeah.
So in terms of like muscle function, it will increase muscle mass if you take enough of this. So you sort of not overdose. No one wants to overdose on anything, but if you're using this regularly at 20 mils a day, you start to increase your muscle mass. And I've increased my muscle mass by 7% in the last year. Yeah.
Wow.
and done that in a mixture of weight training, strength training, the oil, and other activities, because the science element of us wants to test it out, and it's that's key.
And again, with that, in terms of the muscle building element, and certainly the background that myself and Paula have come from in the sporting domain, also when players are injured, it reduces the muscular atrophy during the injury. So again, you're getting players who are coming back from injury at a much better point, being able to then recommence with the training, and they're not having as much muscle wastage as maybe they would have if they had a poor sort of inflamed system.
And of course, when you get into this last third of life, if you like, muscle mass is what decreases in men particularly, and you see that no matter how hard you kind of try and get into exercise and so on, the muscle mass goes, and it's replaced with fat.
So
it's very important to keep that down and keep muscle mass, and it helps with things like bone density and so on. So
and they would likely get into a discussion about vitamin K2, D3 at that point as well. But it's how that can assist. There's times I've been in dissection rooms and I've opened up the bag of a muscle and there's not been any muscle in the bag. It's been purely pure fat, and it's quite interesting.
It is.
So today's Western diets is saying is what's contributing to this, mostly because we cannot get access to the raw foods that we need to get access to, or haven't got the financial capability to access. I think that's one of the key factors in this. And the other thing with this, well, if you look at the types of fats that are coming into our diet, the vegetable oils that are coming into our diet, that we are starting to sort of see that we're getting much higher levels of there's no problem with having the saturated fats, but it's having the levels of the linoleics okay, but as soon as you start to get a hell of a lot more oleic acid in there, and things like your rapeseed oils and your sunflower oils start to really change what's happening with the construct of your omega-6/3 ratio. So if you're looking at oils that are in your foods, then you're noticing that sort of that you've got too much saturated fat in that, and people have been saying coconut oil is the way to go, and it is, as long as it's not heated to heck. And as soon as we start to overheat and we start to get that sort of trans fatty thing happening, then again we'll throw the ratio out too. But a lot of the food that's coming from America and a lot of the food that's the bioengineered has too much of the vegetable oils in. in its simplistic explanation, and not enough of the omega-3 type oils. Of course, the olive oil is the correct kind of balance. And what Ecology have done, they've done something quite clever. They've combined the Arctic fish oil with all its high DHA and EPA and put it together with the polyphenols from the olive oil, taken from the top levels of Terra Creta in Crete. So you've got this entire combination all happening in what the stuff you see like in the blue zone countries we were talking about. So these are the kind of scores that we're looking at. That if we're seeing people come in on test, it's almost like we don't need to test people, because I haven't had one yet that's coming in on the green. But the inflammation index here you're seeing is that looking at that 15-1, that is the average of what I'm seeing coming in. And many things are coming in with the arrow pointing left off the chart. And, we don't have a figure for this. It's that bad. And I can guarantee they're walking in with stiff joints and brain fog and, having all sorts of, health issues. Okay. Now, this writing might be a little bit small. This is a sports slide of mine. Basically, if you've got a ratio of 5-1-1, you're at low risk of injury. So you maintain the consistency, and you should be okay through most activities. So you're not likely to injure or have a back injury in terms of pedestrian life. You'll be flexible and capable. The medium risk comes in at the 15-2-1, and anything above 30-3-1, you're on a very high risk of all sorts of problems.
Just explain that ratio again, what we're looking at here, the 5-1-1. Explain those numbers for us again.
Yeah, so the 5 is like you want 5 times more omega-3 than omega-6 in your system.
Right. And then the other one?
And the other one's the omega-6. So it's like this. So you've got like 30-3-1 there. The ratios are quite complex. They tend to be very individual. But if you've got like a 30 ratio there to the 3 omega-3s, then you've got 3 times more basically omega-6 in your system. And in fact, that person, if you've got a ratio of the high risk 30-3-1, you're having way too much fat, full stop.
Right.
On all levels. Yeah.
Okay.
Low risk is like you should have a ratio of 5-1-1. You still need omega-6 in your system. It's not like you don't need omega-6 in your system. You need it, but the ratio needs to be the 5-1-1.
I see. Okay, great. Thanks for that.
Does that make sense? Yeah. Does it make sense? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So this is the sort of things that we're looking for, in terms of like my job in sport and Sean's as well. Injury prevention, skeletal muscle recovery, changing the inflammatory markers, cardiovascular parameters, cognition response times, mental acuity, and improved eye function is a biggie. My glasses have gone down 3 sets in the last 2 years. I thought I was getting worse, but I wasn't. I was getting better. So we went back to the optician. It was like, it's like, this is really crackers, but this left one used to be like a bottle cap, and now it's thin. So I know that it's working and it's operating at its absolute base level, and I'm systemic with how I use it. And if you look at the omega-3 test results that come in from EQ, you can see on the left-hand side here, you've got somebody who was at, a ratio, well, they had 3.8% of what they needed omega-3, and the latest response, they had 7.4, and the ratio changed from 14-1 to 4-4 in the green. So it's saying that it's like it's made of a complex chemical equation, so the numbers don't always make sense, but it's getting that balance there, so the numbers are coming right down to low numbers, whatever you're doing. Yeah. And then you see on the right-hand side, they've gone from 2.3 to 8.6 omega-3 in the system, and the ratio has changed from 12-3-1 to 3-8. And it's most simply put that it's sitting there, on a poor grade, and then it comes in on a much happier grade up in the greens. That's what we're after. Okay. And sometimes they're like deeply in the red. And this is one of my clients. And you can see that ratio there, 48-9-1. Yeah. 31-8-1. Dreadful results. Okay. And then we're looking to sort of get that back up and get it into the green. So here's somebody's hands, that we're on the Arctic oil for 120 days, showing you just how inflammation comes into skin conditions and eczema and psoriasis, systemically coming from the central to the outside. And after 120 days, they'd moved it from being the dry, cracked skin all over their body to much smoother, happier skin. So you can see the reality of the situation. Now, this happens to be my father-in-law just by chance, because I was able to monitor them better. Sean Mervyn yesterday.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because he went true to form. He got his can of beer out, lit a cigarette, and I thought, there you go. So it was one of those, I'm not going to change the Belfast man. I don't want to. But I wanted to make his system healthier so he was less likely to have a cardiac event at 68. Right? He started taking the oil at 65, and now he's like a drug addict with it. It's like he will not go anywhere without it. And he orders 6 months supply to make sure he's got that. And his cognition, his ability to play with his grandchildren, because EQ's top phrase is, your family deserves a healthy you. Without a healthy you, the pack of cards falls down. And I have to say that with Mervyn, I tested that out in my own family, and it was like, well, here we go. Mervyn should be a candidate. His father died at the age of 41 of a heart attack. His brothers had a heart attack. His sisters had angina. And here he is, bopping about 68, not a sign of any illness. And he is sure that this is the reason why. And he holds it like a teddy bear. It's okay. I also work in Iceland, and we've shown that the Arctic oil doesn't not only reduce the inflammatory state, but by doing that also reduces fluid retention, and by effect reduces weight. So he changed he didn't change his diet, he didn't change his lifestyle. He took the oil on a regular basis, reduces inflammatory markers, reduced the fluid and the swelling and the lymphatic inflammation out of his system, and away he went, and is feeling a hell of a lot better today. So
that's amazing. That's amazing, Paula. Yeah.
Yeah, and so the Icelandics drink fish oils like they're going out of fashion. It's like because anything north of the latitudes, we know they're not getting the right diet, the light, and all the rest, and they rely heavily on the omega-3s and vitamin K2, D3s to make sure their balance is healthy. So what makes this situation different? Why, as a scientist, do I find this combination, especially when it comes to scar work as well and things, that if I've got the pliability and the flexibility within the collagen, and I've got a reduced inflammatory response, then I can improve the movement of that area alongside my hands-on work with very simple interventions, not complex interventions, because people switch off. I will switch off. Life's too busy. It needs to be super, super smart and simple. And that's why they test it. It takes 4 minutes to test. It's over. It comes back within 3 weeks. And then where you're at. You stay on it for 6 months, and then we retest at the 5th month. And then most people, the majority, 85% of people stay on, and the other 50%, it's usually another precursor as to why they've moved or whatever. Yeah. And this is the fastest growing company in Europe. It's reaching people. I mean, it's funny, Poland is the busiest with it. It's just surprising.
Yeah.
So considering the financial models and things like that, is that they see the value and the intelligent country, and that they see the value of taking the oil itself. There's a lot of key factors we're looking for, when getting the right product, and it's where's the boat, where's it fishing?
Yeah, indeed.
How fast does it get to the oil to the factory? How fast does it get processed? What's it combined with? Is it sustainable? Is it correctly sustainable? And all of those factors together, make it something unique.
Well, they're all vital factors in getting as pure a product as you can possibly get. And this is where, yes, you'll find probably, and I don't even know, this is the first time I've seen this, so I don't know what kind of, cost is involved, but you're always going to get people or products that are not priced, they're priced half of that or a third of that or 10% of what this is. But you've got to think, has that been created and processed and delivered in as high a standard and quality as it's possible? Because it's that's the best thing for your body. Your body deserves nothing less than the best quality food, the best quality water, the best quality air, the best quality nutrients. You can't. You can't skimp on these kind of essential things that you're going to make the last third of your life an enjoyable one and as pain-free as possible. So, and I don't know what price this is at all, and that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the quality of what we do for ourselves. Quality life includes quality time, quality nutrients, quality food, quality people in them.
Yeah, definitely.
And it is, and it kind of becomes that false economy almost, in terms of when people do buy the alternative products that are of a much lower quality, they end up needing to buy 3 times, 5 times as much anyway to get that same level.
And not effective.
Or they might not blink an eye at spending a similar amount on a takeaway meal or something of that order, and kind of going, oh yeah, but that's because enjoy my food. It's like, well, look what that's doing to your body. That's increasing the inflammation, and this is designed to reduce it and to keep you moving longer and to keep you healthier for longer. It's
I mean,
it actually allows you to take that stuff. It allows you to live and enjoy life, and like the old phrase of everything in moderation, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I think you've hit the nail on the head there, Sean. That it's what do people perceive as value? They want to do things that are enjoyable. That's for sure. But we've also got to get this mindset. Look, you've got to be putting good stuff in your body too. You don't mind, as you said earlier, Paul, you don't mind having a blast out, and going out and partying and having a few beers or a pizza or whatever you want to do. But in the main, what is your usual thing that you do? And that's the key. If it's usually, pizza and beer and all that kind of stuff, if that's your usual, then your body will reflect that. So quality stuff in your body, that's the best thing to do. So I guess we're coming towards the end of your presentation now, are we?
Yes, that's
right. Well, let me just a few questions there. Is this oil available internationally?
It's available. They're going to like this. Europe. They're not going beyond Europe. They're a company that's just turning 25 years old shortly, so they've got a good track record in terms of research and science, and they are not moving out of Europe, are their words, until every single person in Europe is on the oil, which basically means they aren't moving out of Europe.
No,
and so that's great. So you basically you can get hold of this easily through somebody who's already been educated, within it and works, within it, and so they have a system sort of set up where we take them through sort of signing through. We chat through what their needs and wants are from a medical point of view. That's the way we do it. So we make sure we're getting the right product for them. So say, for example, if it's vitamin K2, D3, and they're on warfarin or blood thinners, that wouldn't be appropriate. So we come at it from a medical position, and they can take it on for 6 months. That's what we say. And then we look after them through that time. And then afterwards, we evaluate the last report. And so you just contact us, basically. And we will sort that out.
Well, what we'll need to do is, as we post this, we'll need your contact details of how people in the UK and Europe can actually get in touch with you to find out more of how to take advantage of this. And for the rest of the people and rest of the world watching this, what a pity. But the information that you presented has been fabulous. I've enjoyed every moment of it. It's been a real interesting presentation, and I'm hopeful that people, in Europe and UK particularly, will act on this information, not only for themselves, but lots of people watching this will have their own clinic, and they'll want to provide this as they see these key health problems in some of their clients. They'll want to know, what else can I do apart from providing physical therapy, for example? What else can I do to help these people? And this is going to be a key element of that. So please, let us have your information, and I'll post this with a link to you, and make sure that, all kind of inquiries head your way.
And that is just, you say about hitting nails on the head there, is that the conference that we're going to in Milan coming up with the scientists, there's over I definitely know there's over 800 people going to this. And the majority of the people in the room are chiropractors, osteopaths, physiotherapists, fitness instructors, and people like that who work in the industry, but they're hands-on, but have this feeling inside that we need to hit this internally and systemically as well to get the best effect of what we do with our knowledge. And they've got a wonderful model for that. Ecology is the most ethical company I've come across, and I turned every stone on them. And
good for you.
And because the Norwegian, it's black and white. They can't. It's like it's impossible for them to do anything that's not black or white.
That's right. That's right. Well, obviously, these people that's going to attend Milan conference, they're the same kind of genre of people as you and I, and they've obviously seen the importance of this product and this information. And we hope that through this video that it will get that word out to more people within our industry, just helping more people to improve their life. So I want to thank you very much for a fabulous presentation. As I say, I've enjoyed it thoroughly, and I hope you folks watching this do as well. So I want to thank Paula and Sean for your time in setting this up and presenting it, and we look forward to maybe seeing you another time with another topic.
Oh, we have got multiple topics.
Oh, I'm sure you have. Thank you.
Never-ending topics. Yeah.
Oh, good. Thank you so much, both of you. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Alistair. Appreciate it. Bye-bye.